Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest, folks. As you can see, I've got my clipboard in my hand. We're just right at the top, if you will, of the results of the latest campaign. I mean, this is it. I mean, this is change over. This is change over results, estimation, and how do we feel about what we've just gone through, and you'll hear where I'm coming from. And then at the same time, I've got one other person that's going to be with me that's going to be basically dealing with this whole issue and kind of educating us all as to what do we feel may be happening, what maybe, and then all at the same time pick up the rest of the votes, because it's the last day for the vote aspect of it. This come Tuesday, that's it. It'll be the day. And so this is what we're going to be doing this week. I've got Jack Kerfoot, who's going to be on. He's going to be on with me, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming vote. The upcoming vote come Tuesday. We're going to have the national vote, and we're going to have our local vote. Those are the two areas that we want to vote. We're going to focus on this time around, if you will, and then we're just going to go from that aspect of it. But just as a sampling aspect of it, the first thing, maybe we're going to start off with the national. We'll start off with the national. And we'll do it that way, Jack. Is that okay, Jack? Can you hang with that?
That's fine. Let's
okay.
Go.
Today, and today's date, Donald Trump, he's a president incumbent, if you will, as president, and the media are CNN. I'm just throwing it right on the bat. CNN and President Donald Trump. What do you think, Jack? Talk to me. Talk to us.
Well, when I look back, I've always liked to look at history. And when I look back at history, I look at who were the presidents that I think did a strong job. And they have to be leaders that can bring our country together. And right now, we have polarization to a degree that I have never seen before. So we also have to have leaders that have to understand our system of government. We have to build consensus in the Senate and the House, and also realize they have to be within the framework with the law as defined by the Supreme Court. It's a complicated system. It's not an easy system. The president of China would say it is a horrible system. He believes that his dictatorship is far more efficient. But personally, the freedom of the election that we have, democracy that we have, is a system that I think works very well. It's messy at times, but it works very well. So which president in the history has passed more legislation than anyone else? The answer is actually Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was able to achieve consensus in major civil rights legislation through House and Senate, which was very unpopular in the South and other parts of the U.S., but he was able to get more legislation passed because he understood the system. Now, the challenge that President Trump has and continues to have is he tries to run the presidency and the government like he ran his business, which was a successful real estate firm, but it's not the same. And so that's the challenge that I see, and that's one of the strengths that I see, with all due respect to you, Bruce, that I see in Joe Biden. He brings an understanding of how to get legislation through, and he also brings the ability to understand the processes to build a consensus. Now, we'll see what happens on the election, but there are several issues as well. And if we look at foreign policy, I would say President Trump has made some strong moves, particularly in the Middle East, getting several Middle Eastern countries that before not only just had no relations with Israel, but actually supported the overthrowing of the Israeli government. So those are some positive things, perhaps things that we haven't seen since Jimmy Carter, and building the relationship, the truce between Egypt and Israel. But at the same time, we've got other issues as well. And how we handle COVID, I think that will be a challenge regardless of who's president. I don't think that's a Republican or a Democratic issue. It is a pandemic that the world is struggling with people I talk to still on a frequent basis overseas. They are struggling mightily, regardless of what our press has. Now, as far as CNN is concerned, we have two types of media, the left and the right, CNN and Fox, and their objective is quite simple. Not necessarily to report news, but to keep eyes on the screen and keep viewers on their network so they can get endorsements from advertisers. For me, when I look for news, I look at NPR and I look at the BBC for international news. And I don't look at CNN and I don't look at Fox News. I try and look for a balanced analysis of the real issues. So from that concern, that's what I look for.
Okay, well, let's go back now. Let's go back a bit. Now, you notice I mentioned that we've got the we got the campaign now for the sitting incumbent, which happens to be President Trump. But remember now, the cleaning swamp actually started. It started in the first election of the president aspect of it, and Donald Trump ran against the systems, and not one of those individuals came up. He was the only one that came up. This guy he didn't even win dog catcher, if you will, aspect of it. He just jumped right in and ran for president of these United States and got elected. And I'm saying, I guess where I'm coming from, Jack, is that the reason why that happened is that people wanted change. And he was the only one that actually stood up and said, okay, I'm ready for the bill. And people voted for him. In fact, and during that particular time, he picked up his base, for whatever reason. Everybody sort of identified with him, but across the board. I mean, it could have been, in all due respect, he could have been a Democrat, he could have been an independent or whatever. He took the reign. And so I'm throwing that out to you to say that that's where I'm coming from. The change was a change. See what I'm saying?
Bruce, I understand. And we have to realize that there's some analogies here. His points and his words resonated with voters in key states. And he ran a very smart election. I mean, initially, when George Bush Sr., at one point in time after Desert Storm, had 70% approval rating. And then the economy went down, and this governor out of a state with very small electoral votes out of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, ran. And everyone thought that this was just the Democrats were going to put up Bill Clinton, someone to run against Bush because he couldn't possibly win. But his words resonated with the people.
But he was in the system.
The economy went down. And so next thing you know, Bill Clinton defeats George Bush.
Yeah, but they were in the system. They were still in the system. Clinton was a governor at one time, right? He was still part of that system. I'm still saying that was a major change when we ran. People tend to forget. They were talking about cleaning the swamp. They got tired of politics. Politics was rampant. That's where the major people were violating all kinds of things, ripping off monies here, doing this, doing that, doing this, and whatever. People were tired of taxes and this, that, and the other, the whole 9 yards. So I'm just throwing that out from the standpoint. I think that was the major hit. It's change, and that's where we are right now today. And even in today's situation, the environment aspect of it, it's still a kind of a change situation again. Now, change was definitely with the sitting president aspect of it. Is going to be interesting to see what the vote is going to look like, because that vote is going to say, well, okay, how serious were people asking for change about cleaning the swamp? So whoever wins this piece is going to be making a point. And I'm saying that as far as I'm concerned, whether Trump wins or lose, the change is still going to be sitting there. It's going to be interesting to see the aftermath. Are we going to have another 4 years, if you will, of strife and problems and protesting and things of that nature? And and then throwing that out to the table, all of a sudden the new major hit has hit on the prior candidate, the candidate that's sitting there now. I'm talking about former Vice President Biden, if you will. with the whole issue with the family and this, that, and the other. So it's a pretty. So my point is that we're right in the midst of change, and is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And now we've got another gentleman that's sitting up there waiting. He was part and parcel, if you will, of that system during that particular time, and I'm sure he might have some things to say about this piece, and because he was very, very much involved in the Democratic Party during that particular time with Clinton and this, that, and the other. And I thought that was a kind of interesting piece. But Bob was sitting right there too. He's looking right at the deal. And so it'd be interesting to see what kind of a comment would he be making in regards to the whole issue of change. Do we think, and I'm gonna throw this out to Bob from the standpoint, the cleaning up the swamp, that did come out. We were all here. You're familiar that we talked about that piece. And now we're still right in the middle, if you will. Now the deal is, okay, what's going to happen? Is the cleanup of the swamp, has it been cleaned up and we're going to move forward? Or are we not going to do it? Let's go. Give it a call.
Well,
Bob, you there?
hi, Bruce. Really and truly, the swamp is just starting to get filled. And, you know, I don't know what type of cleaning of the swamp he was talking about, because right now, if there's a swamp, it is about as dirty as it can get. But the real truth is, you talk about change. People want change, but they want real change. They don't want someone to just talk about it. You know, they want someone that's going to do something to make their lives better. And for me, over the last 3 years and 10 months, I can't tell you one thing that Donald Trump has done to make my life better. Maybe somebody else can that own a business, or someone else can that feels that he's going to do something, but really and truly he has done nothing to help people. And that's one of the reasons we elect people, is to make sure that we the people are okay. We don't say we want something from you. You say give us the opportunity to earn what we get. And that's the thing that he doesn't do. He look out for the people that are like him, and he has people that want to be like him supporting him. Okay. And for me, I read, I'm a history major, and that's how slavery was maintained. It wasn't the slave owners that maintained slavery. It was the people that they could convince they were better than the slaves, and keep them in line, because you can be like me. You know, so that's Trump's. And if you go back through history, you can find people through history that has acted, and he's basing his mantra on what they have done. You know, okay. I mean, everything he's doing, we've seen before. We've read about it, or seen it before.
Okay, Bob, now understand where I'm coming from. I'll throw something back out to you. Now remember, it wasn't Trump that brought up the issue of change. It was America that brought up the issue of change. They said they had an issue with Washington, and that was the swamp. And the bottom line, so they put the big ad out there and said, who's willing to come up and challenge that piece? And right up front with you, both parties did. But if you notice, at the end of the day, they didn't pick one. They didn't pick a person from the party primarily. They picked a person, an outsider, so to speak. And he just
they didn't pick him.
Hold on. Let me just throw it out to you. You said the he. So my point is that it wasn't he. It was us who basically he got voted in by the majority. It wasn't he picked himself.
He got voted in by the minority.
No,
remember that.
But still,
he got voted in by the minority.
Yeah, whether it be 1-0, the score was still he won, right?
Right. I'm just saying he got voted in, but it was by the minority.
Look, Bob, I'm still talking about you. Still don't focus just on Trump. The person's name could have been Jones. You can't do it that way. It was the people of America that basically selected him, because he was the only guy. He was the only person, if you will, that took the baton after it, because the people said, hey, I don't want anybody else. I don't want Republicans. I don't want Democrats. I don't want Green Party. I want this. I want this guy because he happens to be basically blah, blah, blah. It's changed.
I disagree with that.
Well, I
I
know you
say
got your
he
eyes
got
on.
here. No, he got the position. He got the position because people didn't want either one of them.
Well, that's what I
They did
said,
not
Bob.
want either one of them.
Bob. No, he said, no. The people didn't want either one. You're right. The
Right,
people didn't want, and he did not represent either one of the ones you're talking about, which is R's and D's, right?
right,
Okay, good. Now let's move on here. Let's go. Now I'm just saying, now we got the second. Now they've had the opportunity to see that first 4 years of change, right? You got me?
right,
Now we're into this second, and that same entity, people again, the same batch of people basically selected him to come into the second arena. Now we've got another opponent, if you will, systems coming back to the table, if you will, because the
right,
person, we just got you talking about this whole idea about the system and what that system was all about. Now we got the system. And that's why I threw it out, from the standpoint of saying we've got this changed person who's still sitting there, and then I'm trying to say, then we got Vice President Biden who's in there, part of the system aspect of it. So now we've got two people. We got the change element basically, and then we got Biden. And it's going to be interesting to see who will the people select. Who will the people select in this round? That's all I'm saying. You got me?
yes, I do.
Name. That's all I'm saying. So it's going to be interesting because we've got a lot of things that are sitting on the table as a result of that first 4 years that have been put to the table that we've never seen before. We've seen the drug situation big time. In fact, I just noticed that the whole issue with the marijuana thing. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I mean, things that people are trying to figure out. Well, where did this come from? Right now, today, you got me. So I'm just throwing that out to you to say that that's where I'm coming from, and that's why we're having this. We want to have this discussion. Now
Right.
the thing is, let's talk a little bit about some of the major things that were in the change situation in terms of how they did, and then basically what does the majority bring back to the table. Let's hear Jack one more time here. Go on, Jack.
Well, I think the first thing we have to look at, and Bob brings a first point Bob is saying is that from a total vote count standpoint, Hillary Clinton won the majority of the votes. But let's look at the actual election itself. On the Electoral College, President Trump ran a very astute election and targeted on what used to be called the Iron Belt, from Wisconsin down to West Virginia, particularly to pick up those votes. And one of his key platforms was he was going to bring coal mining back, increase coal production, increase coal jobs for America. And he was going to do that by eliminating some of the environmental policies that had been passed under the Obama administration. The reality is those jobs have not come back. Coal mines have continued to close simply because of the economics. So as far as delivering on increasing coal production, he has not gained, or he's not achieved that goal. The other factor we have to recognize, and I've read several studies by several, like the Pew study, on how important is the climate to people. And what people are now saying, according to the Pew study, over 75 to 80% of the people will say they would be willing to contribute their own money, which that meant taxes or otherwise, to try and address climate change. So from that standpoint, he has, you can argue, lost ground both with the coal producers and the continued loss of jobs from that standpoint. Now, when we talk about foreign policy, there are many positions that are not filled in the embassies around the United States. And as someone who's lived many years overseas and is concerned about foreign policy, I think that is it's a major concern for me. So I think that we'll go back to the form of diplomacy that was used under Obama, President Obama. And I think Joe Biden is very strong as far as foreign policy is concerned. Now, the swamp, I never quite understood that. I understand the concept of what he's saying about eliminating the insiders within Washington, the lobbyists. But unfortunately, the reality is lobbyist is a full-time job. The difference is they're lobbying for their individual form of businesses regardless of who's elected. So the lobbyists are still there. They're still working away. They still get paid very, very well. And their goal is to try and convince legislators at the House and at the Senate level to get bills passed that support the people that pay their salaries.
Okay, the guidelines for the winner was based on, there were two factors. Either it was going to be the popular vote or the electoral college. And in that particular situation, that particular vote, it was about the electoral college. And I think from a lay standpoint, as a lay person, because he happened to have been a business person, he looked at the name of the game. He said, well, gee whiz, I mean, I've not been around here long enough to be in a popularity contest. I've been doing some things along that line. It's the electoral college. Well, what does that mean? I think because of that business background, he looked at that and said, well, I just have to basically go out and campaign in those heavy states that have the numbers and see what the possibility of getting that correct number, if you will. And I think that was his whole campaign on the electoral college aspect of it.
Absolutely.
But that was a policy.
Smart campaign that he ran. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying it was a smart campaign.
Yeah, but my point is that it wasn't a popular vote. Even to this day, it's not a popular vote. It's the electoral college.
Right.
And they've changed that back and forth. But I'm just saying, as a businessman, Bob is the one that taught me this. As a businessman, but it was I'm just saying, Bob, it was electoral college. So let's respond to that too. Do you think now the whole campaign is all based again on electoral college, and what is the count? And they are still trying to change that to go to the popular vote. I think that was said in the last campaign. Someone said, right, wait a minute, we got to go with the people's vote, right, Bob?
Right. That's correct. But right now we're doing the electoral college. And rest assured that that's why you see them in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida, Carolina. Those are large number of states.
Yep.
And so if they're going where the largest numbers are, they're saying if we hold our base and we can pull these states to our side, we win. And what is the first to 270? Mm-hmm. So that's it. Now, what happened in the last election is that Democrats listened to the opposition and did not take care of their candidate. They went with what he says, I'm not going to vote. And so they didn't show up at the polls. Republicans showed up at the polls. And that's how he won those states. Let's see what happens this time. He said he's going to get 20% of the black male vote in this election. I want to see that. He makes some statements. I mean, for me, and I'm going to talk about both candidates, Biden hasn't been ironclad,
okay,
and for anyone that any section that they're going to and talking about they need their vote, they need to be asking, how do we collect after electing? If you're living in the slums, what are you going to do to improve the inner city? Don't make it a blue state and a red state, make it the United States. All those things come into play. And that's what's I think is going to change, going to carry the vote, is that who do the people think is going to do the most for them? Okay. And he's had 4 years now. I can't tell you what he's done. Does prison reform help you? Does making sure that historically black university colleges and universities get their money every year and they don't have to come and ask for it? They've been coming there all this time and they've been getting it. So what did he do? I'm just saying, don't placate. He placates a lot of people. And that's the thing that we have to look at.
Okay. But at the same time, I think all of us agree that this is an electoral college event right now.
That's right.
And that's where they're sticking at the electoral college with naturally with the idea that, hey, these other entities are there, and if I can pick X number of those aspect of it, that just adds to my deal. So each one are basically going to their strengths in each of those major states, because those those were the original colony states, right? You got me?
Right.
And they established those votes right off the front, right? You got me? And
Yeah.
and you had those votes in the South and the North and the South during that particular time. So it's kind of interesting about that whole piece. Not that one doesn't have to get sophisticated about how it had happened, but the fact of the matter is those states maintain and retain, if you will,
That's
their
right.
numbers during that particular time. So in most cases, a lot of times, especially during the South, and it's changing. It's changing. The slaves are not where they were back in those days. They've been progressing, if you will, and the South is changing. And one of the biggest things that I think that came to the table as a result of that this time around, blacks are able to vote now. Blacks can vote. They can vote. I mean, they all of a sudden, you know, people are getting the ballots before, if you will, the third in the South, and you know, you don't have to stand in line anymore. You know, so
No, you don't have to take the test.
No.
You know.
What I'm saying to you, everything is there. But if you ain't got no ballot, you don't have to worry about the no test. I can put another obstacle for you. But they got the ballots. They got the ballots at home. They could sign them up. Blah blah blah. Everything. But my point is that I was just making the point about change, and that major change actually that was basically dealing with the whole issue of the so-called the votes aspect of it, right? Got me?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The electoral college aspect of it. Okay? So now everybody's focusing on that particular arena. Now, and as you were saying, Bob, what were some of the things that they were focusing on as they're going around? Just like you said, talking about the black colleges. You know, what Trump did. He basically called all of those folks in. That was kind of slick the way it happened. He called all of the presidents of these colleges into his office after he gave them a check and said, let's take a picture.
But here's the thing, Bruce. He didn't do that.
Well, but
Congress did that.
Well,
Congress sent it to him, and he had to, and you know, they had the votes to pass it without his signature.
Right.
If he had vetoed it, it would have passed without him.
He took the picture. But you agree.
He saw an opportunity. Yeah, he saw an opportunity and he took it.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, you know, we're playing chess now, big time. But as a layperson, if you haven't been involved in the system per se, you're going to take an area that you can feel, hey, look, I think I can deal with that part. And he did have the kind of background that you got to admit the guy can talk, right? You got to admit he can talk. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's just like the golfing thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you know,
I would say that, Bruce, I would say this. If I had a choice to listen to someone speak on a topic between President Trump and former President Obama, I think, in my opinion, President Obama would win hands down. That man is one of the most articulate presidents and intelligent presidents I've heard in a long time.
Look, again, here I go again. I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking about the system. President Obama was part of the system at the time. That's a difference. There's a system. Sure, he happened to have been black. There were some positives there. I know that feeling. I'm still fighting myself on the other end of it. But I'm glad and proud he's there. But he was part of the system. And Bob and I, we were very much involved when he got elected president. We wanted him to come down to Northeast Portland when he came to town. But guess what? That system said no.
That's right.
That system said no. And Bob was very much involved in the Democratic Party, and he was there, very important part of the system. But my point is that the system has a certain playing situation, and that's what you've got to do. That's the game.
Well, as I recall, Bob, where he went instead was to Nike.
Right.
That's right.
Sure it is. They took him west, young man.
That's right. And in fact, that's when Bob first started playing golf, because he wasn't allowed to go to the golf course. When Obama came to town, he was able to play some golf. I'm still trying to get there. See, Bob's wearing tireless right now on his hat. See, man, I can't even go yet
Well,
because Bob played the system for a while. See,
well, the system,
anyway, that's a
the
little
system
process.
is set up. Bruce is, you know, the system is set up where people are not going to win. They're going to be able to support something that everybody wants,
I got
that
you.
politicians want.
I tell you what, Bob, we're going to take a short break and we're going to start right with you from that particular point, okay? We're going to take a short break. And hey, neighbors, voters, remember now, you got 2 days. This is Sunday. This is the day. And you got Tuesday. Get out those ballots and listen to what we have to say. Get that cup of coffee and tea, and we'll be right back with you. Welcome back, folks, to the Oregon Voters Digest. Boy, we're having quite a discussion here. I mean, the vote is just sitting right at the gate. We're about ready to pull that cord, and all of a sudden, they're about 20 minutes from the finishing line. And boy, I tell you, people are going to be just rallying all over the place. Some people are going to be able to run up to the teller and get their money, cash in their money, and others are going to be just tearing up them receipts, tearing up all those invoices that they had bought because they lost the race. But regardless, and the score was 1-0 because only one person going to get the meat. Okay, and I hate to put it that way, but I'm just putting it from a layman's standpoint aspect of it. Don't get angry. Don't get upset. The world's not going to go away. The fact of the matter is we're still going to go in on because the next round, maybe you might stand up and say, I want to run for something, one way or the other. And the bottom line is then it's just a matter of whatever skills you got. If it resonates with the majority, you're fine. Now, if we change the rules a little bit and go with the popularity vote, that's a whole horse of a different color. Okay, you're gonna have to be part of the system, to do that piece. Either elected to office and make your friends and this, that, and other, whatever. On the other hand, if it's the electoral college, you just learned in the first segment that we did, it's all about those key states that basically identified the USA right up front. That was the name of the game. And if you get the majority of those so-called electoral votes, which is X number of aspects of it, you win the game. That's the game. So with that, we're going to jump in right now, and we're going to bring it home. We're going to bring it right here at home, here in Oregon, i.e. Portland, Oregon, the largest city in the state of Oregon. And we've got some very key races that are happening right now, namely the mayor's race. And we've got one other race there, one for city council aspect of it, which is a very interesting piece. But there's a possibility we might have 2 African Americans sitting on the city council for a change, which is interesting. I mean, and then we got a fire plug, and the one that was just recently elected, and all due respect, was Joanne Hardesty. And police is an issue, and so the whole issue of reform for police is definitely going to be discussed in this particular race. And whoever sits on it, and she's on the council, so consequently, that will be an issue that we're going to have to deal with here in the city of Portland. So with that, I'm going to bring in the other 2 guys that were already with us, and I'm talking about Jack Kerfoot and Bob Williams. He's Robert Williams on the golf course, but he's Bob over here. See, now when I get him on the golf course, they're gonna all give me about 6 strokes a hole, and then he can call him whoever he is. All I'm gonna do is be Bruce. That's all. I'm a layperson. In fact, folks, I've never played golf in my life. I've always had it because I wasn't allowed to play any golf. But then everything's fine. Bob understands that part, right, Bob?
Hey, see, you trying to trump me. Because you forget, years ago we played golf together.
Oh my God. Oh, we get to okay. But anyway, it's good that
we get to that age where everything is a past, and
there you go.
Keep looking to the future.
That's right. And I'm just making a little light of it, folks, because in all due respect, I don't want everybody to get upset come the 3rd of November. You know what I'm saying? Let's go at that. If you already voted, hey, just take it easy, relax. If I would suggest, don't even look at TV. Just read the paper the next morning, and then.
Hey, that's what I told Bruce. That's what I told my wife. I said, we voted already.
That's right.
Stop looking at CNN. Right. Stop looking at Fox.
That's right.
I said, when the news come on, turn to something you recorded on Netflix.
Okay, Jack, welcome aboard. Welcome back. Okay, and Steve, who's in the background, he's there. He's evaluating. He's doing a sign language kind of thing with me. So we got it all squared away here. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he's a technician back there, and basically Steve is a very valuable commodity to the piece, because if he wasn't carrying the load, we wouldn't be sitting up here talking right now. So we want to thank Steve for all the work he has done to make sure we get this stuff on the table for you, because it's a very, very important piece. Because in all due respect, without this kind of a program brought to the masses don't understand what the system is all about.
That's right.
You know, and that's why we have so many dollars being spent on all the advertisement and this, that, and other. But here at the Oregon Voters Digest, you'll get the real skinny. You're gonna get the real deal, and so this way you'll be able to make the decision that you want to make, because that's what this country is all about. That's right, freedom of speech. And, you know, right down the line, whatever you think, and it's the only one of its kind that I know of. I mean, I've been all over the world as a result of being in Marine Corps, but the bottom line, it's the only place in the world that you can do the things that we do here now. Got me? So with that, let's get going. Bob, you were making a point right when we closed, and then we're going to get right into our local issue. You were making that point. Which was that? There was some point you were trying to bring. And if you forgot, don't bring another point up.
Yeah. No. All I was saying is that, you know, I'll change the point to when I look at TV and I watch what people are saying when they are being interviewed, it's amazing how many Americans really don't know a lot about America. And they don't, when asked, why are you voting for Biden? Well, he's better than what we have. What is that? You know, how do you know that? You know, he's never been in a position of where he was the sole guy where everything went through him. He's never been there. He's always been the second guy or a group of guys. You know, well, he passed the prison reform. He passed the prison bill that put all these black people in, and he didn't pass that. It was 100% Congress that passed that. You know, people don't understand how the system works,
Right.
but they want to be a part of the system. And I said, take time out, learn something about what you're dealing with, so you will be smart enough to know why, when you vote, what you expect after you vote.
Where should they go to get that information, Bob?
Bruce, is everywhere. It's online.
No, Bob, where should they go to get that information?
They can go to the library. They can go to the
Oregon
party
Voter
they're
Digest
involved in.
featuring Bob Williams, Jack Kerfoot.
They can come. Yes, they can come here. We will educate you.
All right, sounds great. That's it there. Thank you very much. That's a good one. Now let's get into this other meat here. And you know, we got this mayoral arrest. We got this mayoral race, and we got
Race, not arrest. No one's been arrested yet.
No, not yet. I think so. That's exactly what the deal is. Jack, we're gonna jump right off with you. Aspect of it. What do you think about it, Jack? We got this mayor's race aspect of it, and what do you think?
Well,
he's really using the system for the ads. He really draws some big ads that he didn't have to pay for, right?
Well, I think what we've got to recognize is that, well, I find it interesting in the fact that there were 18 people that ran for mayor. Obviously, you were one of them. That's usually a sign that people are not particularly happy with the mayor, the leadership that we have. And so with the runoff that we have Ted Wheeler, who didn't get 50%, he came close. And we have Sarah Inaron. Now, since that time, we've had quite a few things happen. We've had the consistent riots, which have continued on, significant destruction, and in Mayor Wheeler's own words, a lack of leadership. His argument would be he's had to endure some very significant personal items. He's gone through a divorce. He lost his mother, who passed away. And then he was trying to deal with all these other issues as well. But with that said, then we have Sarah Inaron, who quite candidly has stepped up and been more of an outspoken advocate for a lot of different issues, which has gained quite a bit of support. And so it will be interesting to see. I think this will be a very close race. There are some polls that say that she's 10 points ahead or a few points ahead. We have to realize that when we talk about these polls, that what happens is these companies go out and grab a certain percentage, like 2,000, 3,000 voters, and they send them a text and they say, do you support Ted Wheeler? Do you support Sarah Inero? And based on that text response, that's where they come up with these numbers. So is it accurate? Of course not. Is it an indicator of some things, but is it an indicator of who's going to win the election? Till the votes are counted, I don't think so. The one thing I would say is, of the states I've lived in, and I've lived in quite a few in this country, I'm most impressed with the voting system that Oregon has with the mail-in vote. I was very impressed that of the registered voters in 2016, 82% of the people voted. That's outstanding. That is absolutely outstanding. And this year we might even break that record, and I hope we do. But that's a sign that we've got a system that's working, and no system you have can guarantee that there isn't a vote that shouldn't go in the wrong place. But I am very impressed with the voter system that we have, the mail voting system that we have. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, Bob, what do you think, bud? Then we'll get right into the discussion.
Well, if you had asked me this question 3 weeks ago, I'd have said Sarah's hands down has this somewhat in the bag. But today, hey, I think it's a very tight race. And why do I think it's a tight race? Because of some of the things that she has said. She's for reducing funds to the police. But I don't see anywhere on TV at least, or where the general public can find it, where what does she mean? So those people outside, on the outskirts of the inner city of Portland, they're questioning that. And the other part is when you start, when you talk about police brutality, when people are destroying your property, people are beginning to change their idea about these demonstrators. Are they demonstrators or are they rioters? You know, because when does the demonstration take place? Because every time they come downtown after dark, it's a riot or it's destruction. So it's change. People that have not voted are changing their mind on do we need police? And then you cancel one portion of the police and the murder rate goes up. Something's going on here. Or am I next? Some guy gets killed that's not even a part of any gang or any associated with anything. People are beginning to become afraid. That's fear factor. That works in voting also. If you don't believe it, ask Donald.
Okay. All right. Who was that? What was that? You said Donald. Who was that?
President Trump.
Oh, I didn't know. I never heard that.
He has not, to me, he has not acted like a president. I'm sorry, but I can't.
Okay. All right. Now,
I
but now you really jumped on it when he said Trump. Anyway, let's get back on another deal here. I can't see your cover, Bob. You got the wrong cover on. That's why I can't see your headshot. Go get your cover, Bob. We'll wait for you.
You guys keep talking. You guys keep talking.
We'll wait for you.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
We'll wait for you. But anyway, there you go. There you go. But as you can see, folks, we are family here. We are family here, and be right up front with you. All of us are very articulate in some of the things that we're doing. We just want to know. We just want to make sure you understand. We understand the stresses that are out there. These stresses. There you go. Thank you, buddy. Pull your screen up so we can get that U.S. Air Force on there. Now, there we go. There you go. There you go, buddy. Thank you, sir. Thank you. But anyway, as you can see, we're all vets, by the way. That has some significance, and I want to thank those guys for serving. And there's a very, very important piece because we got many veterans out there that are get stressed out because they were fighting for this country, and they participated in this war basically for your safety. And so I think we want to make sure that we recognize that, and I want to make sure these guys know that, and that's why we do what we do. We want to make sure that we're recognizing veterans who have served. and who are still having some major problems out there in peacetime, if you will, as a result of those conflicts and whatever. And we wish them well, if you will. Okay? And they're being very supportive. And again, thanks to the people, they're being very supportive medically and the like, and it's very important aspect of it. And so we take our hats off to them and to their family and relatives and the like. Okay, with that. So with that being said, is that just a couple of comments in regards to whoever gets elected to office. Each of those individuals are going to have. There's 5 members on the mayor. They're sitting there representing the people. 5. One happens to be the mayor, and 4 of the other seats are commissioners. But each has a vote. They're very important. So the winner is always 3-0 or 3-2. Anything less than 3, you lose. You got me? And so it's a 3-2 piece. So let's say, for instance, if you got Wheeler, it has been said that in most cases, he's got maybe a majority. And I'm going to throw this out to the table. He sort of has a majority because it says that to a certain degree that the man's been around, but he's been around the system for quite some time, and he seems a little bit more conservative. And a lot of times people tend to be conservative if they got a little bit more background about what's going on around, if you will. No, he's heavily involved in the illness aspect of it, and he's been into the system for quite some time. School district, the whole world aspect of it. So when he reacts, he's reacting. When one says conservative from the standpoint, he's kind of like saying, well, I do know something about what the issues are in the city of Portland. And so consequently that gives him that particular hat. And then we got another gentleman who has been said, and I'm talking about Mingus Maps. Mingus has been around this city and this county for quite some time. And at one point in time, he was working for Show You Daily. So consequently, he knew the people and he knew some of the major issue aspect of it. I'm not taking anything away from Show. He happens to be the incumbent, but I'm just saying the way things are being projected out, it seems as though he may be that other vote aspect of it. And in fact, if Show wins, guess what? She's now basically sitting on city council, and the mayor, who's the city mayor, who happens to be dead, naturally he's the man. So consequently, he's pretty well as her vote, so to speak, aspect of it. And that's another issue. And then, in all due respect, you got Joanne Hardesty, who's sitting on the board, city council aspect of it. She at one point in time had endorsed the mayor. And but at the same time, again, like I say, the 3 votes I just shared with you, in all due respect, and just jumping right into her aspect of it, she's there, and she too is going to be just like the mayor. I mean, she's got some things on her mind about the whole issue of police. In fact, she's going to be probably the sitting authority, if you will, on police from the people's perspective, because she's the one that's talking about it. The city commissioner, the police commissioner, normally who has that particular bureau, is the one that is a spokesperson. But even if that person is a police commissioner, you still it has to be brought back to the city council, and they will vote on the issue. It's not just a kind of a slam dunk just because you happen to be the police commissioner, just like the mayor is today. Even though he might come up with some changes, if you will, whether it be funding or whatever, at the end of the day, it's always going to be about that vote. If there's a difference between her and the mayor, say Joanne Hardesty, guess what? If she's got the 3 votes, guess what? That's the way it's going to go down. Okay, so I want to throw that out on the table. Now with Sarah, unfortunately, she wasn't sitting in the seat at this point in time. So consequently, she's got to be able to identify the other 2 votes or whatever, and that may be an issue. We may have a situation where a city council person might be running the whole city council, if you will, if they have the 3 votes. And that's going to be an interesting situation. We got quite a board. We got quite a city council this time around. And I say in many ways, it's going to be a very conservative. There's not going to be enough of an opportunity for an activist, a hard-nosed activist, just to do what they want to do on city council. I hope you guys would, and I hope we can talk a little bit about that. It's very important, and the people need to know that. See, that's the people need to know that. You may not see that in the media aspect of it, because in all due respect, you got to understand that the media has its favorites, and that would be based on the people who pick up the ads. You know what I mean, and the business community is very, very interested in this particular race because they're the one that was hit pretty hard downtown. I mean, just the whole image. Not that it was a total business community, but the fact of the matter is, normally they identify it as, hey, I mean, we're hurting the best. So we want to make sure we get good representation on the city council aspect of it, which is an interesting piece. Because if you notice, and I'm just throwing my little piece out there to agree, you notice that for the last 3.5 years or so, the present mayor has been hit hard from the standpoint he's been looked upon as if he wasn't doing his job correctly. You know, and I've always maintained he was always trying to basically pick up. You know, we've all three of us have been in boot camp, and we know what that means. If you haven't gone through boot camp, you don't know nothing yet until you've been assigned a job.
That's right.
You got me? And I'm just putting in a layman's standpoint. He has been going through boot camp. He's been going through boot camp because there's no so-called introduction when you run for office. I mean, you just got to get in there and go for what you know. Okay, now, and I'm gonna throw it to Bob and say, Bob, now you know where I'm coming from. Now, is he a Trumper?
Well, my thing, Bruce, is is
I didn't want to say that, Bob. I mean, I just want you to say it. No problem. Everything. Okay, I'm gonna be through now. Just a moment.
well, no. When I look at your present mayor, my question becomes, what do the people expect of him when you're having riots downtown,
Right.
but the police can't go in and move the people because then it's police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
So they blame the mayor. If the police come in and they do move the people, then they blame the mayor. You know, so he's in a lose-lose situation. He's not in even-handed. He's not even-handed. That's number one. Number two, he needs to make a decision, stand by his decision, and let the chips fall where they're made instead of being so wishy-washy. The reason both sides continue to attack him is because he doesn't make a decision. You know, well, maybe if I need more time, let's look at it. We need to look at it this way. You know, people are not going for that in the midst of situations that's going on in downtown.
Okay.
That's why they're looking at someone else with no experience in city government to take his place. I think you're going to find out that when you change one bad part with another part that you don't know about that might work and might not, you're going to have some people that's going to be holding their heads in their hands for quite some time.
Well, you know, Bob, but as I indicated, we were talking about this piece, but the kinds of people that are going to be elected to the city council, other than the mayor, we got some pretty strong people. You got me? And in most cases, they're going to be the majority. Okay? So we might be ending up with a city commissioner, in all due respect, carrying the big stick for the whole council. I'm just throwing that out. Let's let Jack come in and see what do you think about that, Jack? Who's going to carry the big stick?
Well, the first question is that we have to recognize is the power that the mayor has is the ability to sign which bureaus. And that can be a very large carrot or a stick, you choose, that he wields relative to which bureaus that they have, depending on what their particular positions are. The second factor is a city commissioner is effectively a chief operating officer for those bureaus. And unfortunately, we've had some chief operating officers who were commissioners that absolutely had no idea what they were doing or what their bureaus were doing. That's why we've had a multi-million-dollar shortfall in the Parks Bureau. That's why we've had red flags being raised by the city auditor. We have some things going on that, quite candidly, the bureaus need to be cleaned up. And in theory, well, not in theory, in practice, it's very important that the mayor picks the right commissioner to lead the right bureau or bureaus. So from that standpoint, I think what you see in Dan Ryan is someone who's very analytical. I wouldn't call him conservative. I would say he's very analytical. You look at someone like Carmen Rubio, who has been actively involved in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, as well as active in the nonprofit. I would say that she may be more pro-business. And then you have the election of Mingus Mapps versus the incumbent, Chloe Daly. And I would say that Mingus is clearly an experienced and a highly educated person that understands the importance of collaboration. And all the things that I'm reading are saying that he's leading by 10 to 20% of the polls. Commissioner Udaley is not very popular. I remember hearing men and women in the gym where I worked out and also in downtown in the coffee shops talk about ABC. And one day I stopped one of the people and I said, "What's ABC?" And she said, "Oh, anybody but Chloe. We've got to get a new commissioner." And she's very anti-business, or that was the perception. She's also very anti-homeowner and very strong in her position. And she also has a reputation of taking out her positions against, or shall we say, trying to wield her influence against anyone that opposes her, as was documented in the Oregonian relative to trying to eliminate the neighborhood associations without meeting with the neighborhood associations and trying to intimidate the other commissioners and the mayor to support her position. So that approach and that style is something that concerns me deeply for a commissioner, and that's one reason that I openly endorse Mingus Mapps. And I think Mingus Mapps will be a very solid addition to the city council, and I think that will be very important. So I think that right now we've got an opportunity to be more of a business-focused city council, and we'll see what happens on the mayoral election in another few days.
Well,
Can I ask him a question there, Bruce?
let me throw a couple of things. I want to add this so you can pick this up with it for a minute. Boy, it looks like the time is passing so fast. We got about 2 minutes. So boom, going on, Bob. That's real quick. We got about another minute for you. Going on.
Jack, if your city council is business oriented, what happens to the people in the community?
Going on.
Well, that's an interesting question. The thing I would say is right now, I think what a lot of people are concerned about is with the continuation of COVID, we are going to see more and more businesses downtown in Portland close and shut down completely. Every time I open a paper or look at a news on Portland, I just see one business after another, restaurants, services being closed out.
Okay, buddy. Look, guys, we could actually spend more time with you out there, the viewing public. But as you can see, hey, there's going to be a lot of it. But you've got that selection. You've got that choice. Get out there and vote. Get out there and vote, vote, vote. And to Sarah, on a balanced aspect of it, hey, you're competing. Get out there and vote. Vote for her, vote for him, but vote. Very important.